This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the November 9th finance meeting. Robbie, go ahead and roll call us, please.
Okay, sure. Phil Yeager,
Here.
Rick Meredith, Chuck Fritz,
Here.
Mayor Frank,
Here.
Tim Isabel, Gary Long, Tim Parrott.
Here.
Okay. All right, first item on the agenda is lease policy for county-owned property to include transparency on county in lieu of contribution.
Thank you, Chairman Yeager. Basically, I was looking for a way and just was bringing to the committee, what we might encourage or do with regard to, basically, for the most part, free lease and payment of utilities and insurance and many what are essentially donations made to nonprofits. And to me, I think we need to have some kind of either set this up in our budget process or require reports to the commission. But if we look at, for instance, when folks come for funding or contributions, or even if we're looking at raises for employees, one of the things that's not fully transparent is the cost of supporting the nonprofits. And I'm not saying that we should not support them, but it just, in fairness, for instance, if you're coming up and you're asking for a specific proposal, then we're looking to see where do we have the revenue to be able to finance that. And we just have buried in our operational budgets for our buildings what is really a donation to nonprofits. And so I don't know that that's fully transparent. I did talk to Robbie today. I didn't even know from an IRS standpoint if we should be, for instance, presenting some type of documentation to these organizations. And then the other thing is under requirements for accounting, for government accounting, is that we are required to keep and be presented audits from the nonprofits. And in this particular case, that's not happening when it's in lieu of donations. Now it is for the fire departments, for an example, and that is something that you all as county, the county commissioners, Chairman Yeager, are required. They do have to present that in order to receive their funding. And those contributions are also recorded in your appropriation resolution. So for instance, the fire departments, the county fair association, the chamber, those are all itemized in your annual appropriation resolution. So I just wanted to discuss that with the committee. If you all thought, maybe we ought to fine tune some type of policy. And I know we've discussed this before in terms of when we do county leases, what do we want? Do we want to standardize the lease amount? Because we do have a wide range. For instance, Ethra pays, I believe, one of the highest rates for square footage at the DARC building, or the Dickens building they're actually in. And then others have varied from there. And so do we want to, engage like a real estate firm to say, hey, because I know many of these facilities are not prime real estate, but nevertheless, there is a value to the real estate. So I just wanted to open that up for discussion.
All right, anybody have any comment on this thought?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
A few years ago, I raised an issue about especially when we quit giving funding to all the nonprofits, about the same thing that the mayor is talking about. A lot of the things within the courthouse and everywhere else that we are funding with nonprofits and not doing with others. Now how that's not equally fair and share, but I did not get no support from the commission at that time, and I was shot out of the saddle on that. And that's another part of we as a commission not being consistent on what we're going to fund and not fund. And this is something again that we need to look at. And not that I'm not saying that things are not worthy, and because they are. Everything that we've looked at has been worthy. But we need to be consistent on what we're going to do and be fair from one end to the other, because everything that comes before us has been worthy of consideration. But we cannot pick and choose, just because one person may like this nonprofit better than this nonprofit, because we all have our likes and dislikes, and things rank better than the others. But we just need to be consistent on what we're going to fund. And as real estate within the courthouse is very tight, and rent and utilities is a very prime thing for it. So I mean, this is something we need to look at.
All right, thank you. I guess I'm looking at I don't know what, I know CASA, CMS, and I believe the credit union all pay $1 a year. Is that right, Robbie? Unless the mayor knows. I think that's what they pay, that group.
Yes, I think the credit union, all I found was just a motion, and I don't think we even have a lease agreement with them.
Yeah.
And I don't even think they're paying $1. So
You're probably right. Holiday Bureau has that building. Do you know I just would like to know what, maybe that's for another meeting, but if you have it, Robbie.
Well,
Yeah.
as an email, it was an older list that we were working on in 2018. This came before the committee in December of 2018, and Randy started working on it then with Roger and the mayor. And this was the list. This isn't updated,
Right.
so it needs some work. But I decided to, just for information purposes, to send this on through. But in the second page, the courthouse is 62,500, but the annual expense is Roger's budget for all of these, but it includes some other buildings besides the courthouse. So we would need the square footage of those other buildings to include, which would bring the cost down. And the cost of the total square feet, that was just that's not their total square feet.
Okay.
Yes, the 825,708 is.
Okay.
But that's one way that you could do it. That's one of 3 ways that Randy has on here that, you could do the market lease rate, which would be per city, I guess, at least.
We have different classifications of our buildings. This in Jolly would be, in Indianapolis, you'd have an A and a B and a C, but in Clinton, this is probably an A or B property.
Like the DARC.
The DARC, part of it's upgraded, part of it's not. I think if we wanted to pursue this, I think the mayor is probably right in trying to find a real estate firm that would kind of classify our buildings for us. Is that kind of what you were talking about, Mayor?
yes, and well, I think maybe there might be a couple of arms, or a couple of branches on this, I guess. One might be just from the finance committee standpoint that, and this is where I'm not a policy expert from the finance committee, but maybe we require it as part of the budget process or in the annual budget book, a reflection of leases, a reflection of in-kind donations. And And then maybe even a report on litigation taxes that the county has passed, where those taxes or fees go to the nonprofits. And again, it only goes to what Commissioner Fritz was saying, a fairness issue. And so if you have one nonprofit who's getting $1 per case and one that's getting $10 or $15, we need to know that as the requests come in, and it helps commission be fair. So maybe, maybe we address the value of the properties, but then also how do we report this and how do we share this with commission and with the taxpayers?
Okay, any other thoughts on this, on how to proceed, or if we want to proceed? Anything to, yes, Commissioner.
I was texting the property assessor about something that he,
Okay,
his department could handle if he had the employees. He's always needing an employee. If this is something that we could do, and instead of paying somebody else, we could put that employee to doing that as well, or he could.
We can't hear when Randy is talking.
yeah, that was Johnny, I think. Yeah, oh, hold on, he's going to come up to the microphone.
Hello, everyone. I mean, we could value, but I'd have to look at what criteria you were looking for. Like, you're going to do triple net leases, or I don't understand fully all exactly what we're asking for though. So I don't want to commit to it, but we can value it. We can pull a lot of commercial feature values off of Marshall and Swift. Again, it's just all, all the terms of the lease. There's a lot of things that go into it. Probably, I mean, I just have to talk to the powers that be to see exactly what kind of values we're talking about. That helps.
Any questions for Johnny?
Any questions? I mean, I can, if you
Well,
got some specifics on answer, ask me what you might want to, I mean, what would you be looking for as far as value goes? Like, you looking at least dollar amount or overall value, or I guess this is my question, or question from Mr. Isbell.
Randy was talking about is using a revenue approach.
So that was the one approach. That's that first approach. And I think that's what Johnny's talking about, lease value approach. The other two are more of a, hey, here's what we're spending. Let's at least get that back on a per square footage basis. Mm-hmm. So the second one and the third one, not discount the third one, but the second one is more of a cost recovery approach than a revenue approach. Well, and that's a decision that needs to be made.
I think we definitely need to know what we're spending, giving away, contributing. We definitely need to know that.
And that could be as much as hiring an independent appraiser. If you've got the numbers, the main thing for that is if you got the numbers, you got to know what your utilities, what your insurance costs. You can look at replacement costs new versus,
I'm just trying to help you get that employee you've been asking for.
Well, I've got one coming, but if with that, I might need two. Depends on how many properties we're talking about too. If there's 10 or 15 properties, that's not so much as if there's, 20, 25 a year, that it gets into some time to evaluate. But I mean, I'd be happy to help if I could. It just depends on what information you're really kind of glean from all that as to whether or not I could help or not. And I can look into it further the more you get closer. Any questions?
Any thoughts, Mayor, on what you'd like to see or what we would like to see?
What do you think about, and I don't have to do it in the form of a motion, how about Robbie and Randy just work on perhaps what might be a good policy amendment for the Finance Committee in terms of, requiring at least a reporting or a transparency of the contributions.
Yeah.
And maybe, I think it's one of the things, for instance, when the budget committee is going through the budget process, that would be valuable information for them to use as they're making their decisions and formulating a budget. So I don't have to do a motion today, but maybe they can help guide me on what would be an appropriate policy amendment. And then on the real estate side of things, on how we value, I'm open to, if I did talk to Roger about this, and Roger, part of that ESG upgrade, we do have, current data. And I think that is good data that we could use in valuation. And then also part of that ESG upgrade was an asset management program for county facilities. And all of that data is being entered right now. The company is boots on the ground. Last week, they've been here all week entering stuff. And that will probably give us some better direction as well. I'm happy to work with finance. I'm happy to work with buildings on it. I just wanted to get your thoughts on it, if you thought it's a worthwhile and, endeavor to go down this path.
I believe it probably is, that we probably could use a system where we can put an actual number to an actual piece of space. So, Robbie, did you think you can work toward that with the mayor then for a month, and then we'll kind of bring it back and talk about it again?
Yes, we'll come up. Me and Randy can work together. We have a good start already, and maybe get a cost approach. And the other thing, as far as a real estate or the other approach, we can't really do.
Right.
Somebody else, evaluates that property.
Okay.
It's a cost.
We're not in a real, our hair's not on fire, so we can kind of take our
Sure.
time with this. So let's do that over the next month and see what kind of information you guys can glean for us.
Okay, sure.
Anything else, Mayor, on that you'd like to see over the next month?
No, sir, that's good.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Let's move on to handling of a disputed property tax payments. Mrs. Copeland.
I just wanted to come to one of your all's meetings and discuss. I know with the you all are aware of the latest where the Toyota had the suit about the disputed taxes that they said that they wanted a refund on, and where we paid that. But from here going forward, I just wanted to see what your all's opinion was on possibly not collecting that or going ahead and collecting it from here on out if we have any other manufacturers or anything like that that disputes a portion of their taxes. Do we want to continue to collect that and then possibly, if, have to refund it like we did this time, or do we want to not collect it and then them have to pay us? And I've talked to a couple of different ones. I spoke with the mayor a little bit about it, talked to you just a tad bit. And I guess my thing is I do have, the tax collector does have the authority, there is a statute in place that does say that we cannot collect the undisputed portion and just wait until it's heard out. I know that the school department is one of them that is hit the hardest, that fund, if we do have to refund it or if we don't collect it. So I kind of wanted to put it out there for discussion, see what your all's ideas was. Really wanted to put it out there for Dr. Parrott as well, to kind of, see what his thoughts were and make that, I'd like to make it as a group decision instead of me just doing, making that decision on my own. I have reached out to CTAS. They do encourage you on your larger ones. I'm not talking
Yeah.
about ones that's $200, $300. I'm talking about several $100,000 over a few years period. They encourage you not to collect it. I did reach out to a couple of other counties. Of course, they're in the middle of their tax season. Some of those trustees are very busy. I did get a hold of Blount County. He doesn't collect the undisputed portion on the larger ones. So that's kind of what I wanted to come and just talk with you all today a little bit about, put it out there. It's not something I'm asking for a decision today. I just would like some input, and like I said, us do this as a partnership and make that decision kind of together.
This is not one of my strengths, so if anyone has some comments on it, I'd like to hear some other thoughts.
Hey, this is Dr. Parrott. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Hey, I think that is a good thing to do, because yes, the school system got hit. I think it was a couple of $100,000, but you know, there's two things with that. There's that one, and there's also the I guess it's called the abatement or the TIFs and things like that. You know, we get that throughout the year, and then at the end of the year, it's taken back from us. So we're looking like, oh yeah, everything's going good, and then you get a $200,000 hit at the end. And just like this was collected, I think, over 8 to 10 years, and then it all got taken back at one time. Now I know Robbie did a great job of taking it out of prior years, but we've got about, in our budget, about 600,000 is set aside for prior years, and I think we're in a hole right now. My last calculation. So I would rather err on the side of caution. We can always get it at a later date, but once we get it, I like to spend it. And once it's spent, it's hard to get back.
Right. That was kind of my thought as well. And I think several others kind of feel that same way, because I know that the schools did take a hard hit with this. Now it was 1, 2, 3, 4. That one was over a 5-year period. And I don't think that go on that long. Is that correct, Johnny? Normally it's handled within a couple of years when they dispute it. I'm not sure why this one went on as long as it did, and it ended up we had to pay in total. It was $245,000 in total is what we paid. Now, I think $45,000 of that was interest, and let's see. Yeah, okay, we paid $273 total. $245 was actual property tax, and then $28,752 of it was interest. And that's something that we have to figure. And so my office got with the finance department when we had to pay that out to make sure that it did come out in prior years. And hopefully we won't have to deal with that big of one going on that long. But yeah, the next one, if I understand that we're in a process of debating 8 years right now.
It's a 13-year appeal right now, and they're trying to tie the current 8-year appeal in with the 5 that was just ruled on. There's different circumstances that are involved in that, but I do think it's a good idea to collect the undisputed portion. If it's disputed, leave it out there, because usually that's new money, so we're not going to miss it. Most times it's an appeal. It's an appeal on something that I usually, like I've got one going right now where we just picked up $40 million, and I've been in court over that. It's always, they don't.
How many?
I wouldn't. I think they do. So I've got to protect the tax base for the county, and that's what I'm doing. Residential's not.
Yeah.
This won't factor into this. This is more your big money.
How many of those do you suppose you're talking about?
It can vary any given year, probably 5 a year on the big ones. And in different years, it's worse, like on reappraisal years. This year wasn't so bad, but next year we might get more because of COVID.
Okay.
That's, I'm looking at that to be a bigger impact on Anderson County in 2021 than the reappraisal was in 2020. I've even notified the DPA in the state of that, and I think I've spoken to it here at the county level as well too, that I don't know how many appeals we're gonna get next year, but I believe the number's gonna greatly
Yeah,
increase.
yeah.
I think just on the residential and the things like that, normally those are a few $100s, so I don't really see an issue with that.
If we were
My
to,
main one is just the ones where we're going to end up paying out the amount that we did, because like I said, the schools took, took a hard lick.
if we were to implement this, we would have to get some kind of threshold
I
to
think so.
minimize confusion or
Mm.
lap over things like that. So that's something we'll look at. Any other comments? Yes, Mr. Isabel.
We paid interest on the money to them.
Yes,
What was that percentage rate, do you know?
it was 1.5, and we have to go by what is set. We go by the prime rate -2, and the prime rate at that and you have to look at during that time, and it was 3.25, and then you take 2 off, so it was 1.25.
Do you invest any of this money into an interest-bearing account when you get it?
We do. We try to, all of our idle funds. We invest as much as we can.
What does that bring?
Yeah, right now it's not bringing too much. It just depends on the year. We've seen it this past year where we were as much as 2%, but right now we're not getting nothing
Sorry,
near
interest
that.
rate loss on this. What I'm saying is if you got it and then we invested it, then we had to pay it back, are we going to gain or are we going to lose in the interest rate?
Now, if we don't collect it, they have to pay us interest. They have to pay us the same.
Same.
Yes. Yeah, if we win.
And they're getting.
Yeah. Right now, the prime for this year is 5.50.
Really?
So for 2019, it was 5.50. So they have appealed the one for 2019. So
3.25.
Wow, that's surprising. So it's not the prime rate of the banking system.
Right.
Okay,
this is the Federal Reserve.
okay.
Yes.
Huh.
And so you have to use that.
Yeah.
So say we were paying one out for 2019, we're going to have to pay 2.50 instead of 1.25.
We're going to collect.
Yes.
That same 1.25?
They have to pay us, correct? Yes.
Any thoughts on the board out there?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I agree with Dr. Parrott's assessment. I'd rather receive a windfall for the county and then experience the pain of a shortfall. And I would like to offer a motion. I do believe that, as Regina says, she does have statutory backing, but I understand that she wants it to be a partnership. So the language of my motion would be, while it is the sole statutory authority of the trustee, whether or not to collect disputed portions of property tax, the Finance Committee supports not collecting the disputed portion. And that way, Regina, I know what you've told us, but I don't think we have any ability within the finance policy to say, what amount, to accept or not. But that gives you the support you need. And I think the agreement you need that it's a good decision to do that. But that's my motion.
Okay. Second anywhere? Second, Mr. Isbell. Any comments? Any further comments?
I agree.
Okay. Well, let's do a roll call vote then.
Bill Yeager,
Aye.
Chuck Fritz,
Uh,
Mayor Frank,
Aye.
Tim Isabel, and Tim Parrott.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Unanimous passing.
Two
Thank
votes.
you. Thanks, Regina. Thanks, Johnny. Robbie, do you have any old business you
I do
want us to
not.
look at?
Or,
Anything new?
no, sir.
Anybody else have anything new they want to discuss? All right. If not, we are adjourned. Thank you.
y'all.
Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you.
Good meeting.
I'll be back in person next month.